I personally love it when almost a decade after a movie comes out, we learn details that could have changed the complete outlook of the movie and what the universe would have been. So let's talk about Balder the Brave in Thor. So Kenneth Branagh brought us the original Thor. It's a movie that you either love or hate, it seems. It was definitely lower budget because they had a certain amount of money to produce a certain amount of Phase 1 films. And Thor and Captain America suffered from this, but I think the story was definitely saved by this restriction. And we learned recently that Balder the Brave, Thor's half-brother, was originally pretty crucial, actually, to the first film. He was in the early drafts and even closer to the final drafts of the film, but ultimately they decided not to use the character due to the relationship and the close relationship specifically between Loki and Thor that they wanted to explore down the road in the MCU. And specifically when it came to like the Avengers and Loki and what he does and how he comes back and his personal vendetta. So that's pretty interesting. I think Balder's one of these characters that I'm glad they didn't put in. I could see why and maybe where they wanted to go with that, but ultimately I think the decisions they made have led us to the MCU we got, and it's hard to argue that something would have been better than what we got, right? Because look at what we've gotten so far, the definitive Hollywood franchise. So it's one of these things where in an alternate world I wish I could see what that could have looked like and who they would have cast and what the idea was, but at the same time it was taken out for a reason, and ultimately it probably wasn't going to be anything more significant than what we got, or more important, right? So how the character would have been integrated into the future MCU of the MCU I think would have been far more interesting, but just leaving it down to Thor and then Loki and then bringing in Hela in the third one I think signifies that family relationship, specifically how Loki goes. If there's more relatives, I think that kind of would have cheapened that, if that makes sense.